You could feel the shift the moment it happened. The crowd exhaled in stunned disbelief. The broadcasters stumbled to find excuses. And the sideline? You could see the coaches go pale as the ball floated, almost in slow motion, into the waiting arms of the defender. Pick six. And just like that, the Dillon Gabriel hype train slammed into a wall at full speed.
If you're into the real story and all the messy twists they don't show on highlight reels, go ahead and subscribe. And if you're sticking around to see how this Browns QB chaos plays out, you should definitely be subscribed.
Now here's the part that should have been obvious from the jump. This quarterback battle was never on even ground. Not from day one. One guy, Dillon Gabriel, was handed the keys to the car before he'd even taken a test drive. The other, Shedeur, he had to fight just to get the address to the dealership. But this shocking interception, this moment where the golden boy faltered in front of the lights, it cracked the narrative wide open. Suddenly, people were watching differently, listening closer, and asking the question they should have asked weeks ago. Why is Shedeur being treated like an afterthought when he's the one playing like a pro? Let's rewind. Dillon Gabriel came into the preseason draped in compliments. NFL ready, veteran command, smart decision maker. Every talking head with a microphone practically knighted him. You'd think he was the second coming of Drew Brees the way they talked him up. The narrative was already written. He was the presumed winner of the QB room before the games even began. And in fairness, Gabriel does have experience. He's played big-time college ball. He's got that "I've been here before" swagger in interviews. But swagger doesn't throw touchdowns. And when the bullets started flying, that composure they hyped, it crumbled. The fumbled handoff was one thing. Sloppy, sure, but forgivable. But the pick six? That was a different beast. That was a momentum-killing, eyebrow-raising, what was he thinking moment. That was a quarterback locking onto his first read like it was a life raft, and never even seeing the defender jump the route. That's not NFL ready. That's back to the film room stuff. But here's where it gets spicy. Instead of owning the disaster, the media pivoted faster than a cornerback on a slant route. Suddenly it was all about growing pains and early chemistry issues. The tone shifted from praise to protection. The same people who threw confetti at Gabriel's press conference were now running interference for him like it was their job. Meanwhile, let's talk about Shedeur. While Gabriel was being given the deluxe starter package, first team reps, prime field time, favorable coverage, Shedeur was sitting there waiting, watching, getting scraps. A few second-half series here, a drive there. And yet, when he did take the field, he didn't fold. He didn't force it. He played clean, efficient, calm. No fumbles. No panic throws. No reckless hero ball. Just straight-up smart football. Shedeur was playing chess, while the system tried to stuff him into a game of checkers. But here's the frustrating part. Even when Shedeur made a solid throw or extended a play with his legs, the response was lukewarm at best. No big praise. No gushing graphics or highlight breakdowns. Just a brief nod, then back to the Gabriel narrative. And let's not pretend we haven't seen this movie before. There's a pattern in this league, and in the coverage around it, where certain quarterbacks are allowed to develop, to struggle with growing pains, while others, they mess up once, and the label gets slapped on. Not ready. You know the difference. You've seen it. We all have. And it's not even about race or personality all the time. It's about expectation. The moment teams or media paint you as developmental, you have to be perfect to be considered average. Meanwhile, the Golden Boys can throw ducks and still get framed as learning. It's exhausting. And when Gabriel threw that pick six, it should have been the moment the media said, "Okay, maybe we need to reassess." But nope. The PR machine went straight to spin mode. It's just preseason. He's still getting comfortable. He'll bounce back. Meanwhile, when Shedeur missed a read in limited action, he's holding the ball too long. He doesn't look decisive. Maybe he's not quite there yet. Are we serious? Let's just call it what it is. Shedeur has been better. Full stop. He's protected the football. He's handled pressure. He's shown leadership when he's on the field. He's not making excuses, he's making plays. All without the reps, without the media hype, without the safety net. And people are starting to notice. After Gabriel's second turnover, even some of the more conservative analysts had to squirm a little. The ones who were riding the Gabriel QB1 wave suddenly had less to say. Fans on social media weren't buying the excuses anymore. The eye test was telling a different story, and Shedeur was passing it. Because poise matters. Decision-making matters. And if you're going to fumble and throw pick sixes under pressure in the preseason, how are you going to hold up when the real bullets start flying? Let's be real. This quarterback competition may have been rigged from the start. Gabriel had the pedigree, the push, and the plan. Shedeur, he was the interesting depth piece. The wild card. The one they could afford to ignore. But when your wild card starts outperforming your sure thing, what do? If you're smart, you reevaluate. You let the play speak louder than the plan. But in Cleveland, that's not what we've seen. We've seen excuses. We've seen stubbornness. We've seen a refusal to acknowledge the guy who's quietly making fewer mistakes, showing more maturity, and earning the respect of his teammates every time he takes the field. It's not about flash. It's about function. And Shedeur is out here functioning like a pro, while the NFL-ready guy is tossing 6-point gifts to the defense. The truth is, Shedeur's biggest problem isn't his performance. It's that he was never supposed to make this a real conversation. But he did. Just by being solid, steady, efficient. He made it uncomfortable. Because now every time Gabriel messes up, every time he throws behind a receiver or bails from a clean pocket, the pressure ratchets up. Not because the fans are fickle, but because they've seen what the other guy can do. The guy who's supposed to be not ready. The guy who's done nothing but make smart decisions and protect the football. The drama? It's not just about stats. It's about control of the narrative. And right now, that narrative is slipping through the Browns' fingers faster than Gabriel's grip on the ball during that fumble. So what happens now? Well, either the Browns double down and keep pretending this is fine, or they admit that the guy they buried on the depth chart has been the most consistent quarterback on the roster. And yeah, that would mean swallowing some pride. It would mean letting go of some draft bias and acknowledging that maybe, they got this competition backward. But if they don't, if they keep feeding Gabriel reps while Shedeur watches from a sideline, then it's not a battle. It's a cover-up. Because this isn't just about who's making the plays. It's about who's being allowed to. And Shedeur? He's earned more than what he's gotten. He's earned a real shot. And if he doesn't get it, we'll all know why. It won't be because he failed. It'll be because someone else couldn't admit that he succeeded. At this point, it's hard not to feel like we're watching a rerun. Different jerseys, different faces, same tired story. A quarterback who checks all the boxes except the ones the organization bothered to write down. Because if the only box that mattered was performance under pressure, Shedeur Sanders would be halfway to a starting role by now. But instead, he's sitting behind Dillon Gabriel, the guy who just tossed a pick six like it was a preseason gift basket. And don't get it twisted, this isn't about hating on Gabriel. No one's out here saying he's terrible or that he shouldn't be on a roster. He's got tools, no question. But tools don't matter much when the whole toolbox spills every time the pocket collapses. When the moment gets big and the lights go bright, Gabriel starts playing like he's trying to outrun a ghost. Panic mechanics, tunnel vision, and most importantly, mistakes. You'd think after a pick six, the locker room vibe would shift. You'd think the coaching staff might start giving Shedeur a longer look, a couple extra reps, a real chance. But no, it's radio silence. Business as usual. As if the interception never happened. Meanwhile, Shedeur's sitting there like a chess piece the team refuses to move, no matter how wide open the board is. And let's just take a second to appreciate what that must feel like. You know you've been sharp. You know your reads are clean. You've protected the ball. You've stayed cool. You've done everything they asked. And yet, nothing. You're still third on the depth chart because someone else fits the narrative better. That's the kind of thing that breaks players. That saps confidence. That makes you question whether any of it matters. But Shedeur? Nah, he's built different. He's not storming out of interviews. He's not cryptic posting on social media. He's just waiting. Still calm. Still collected. Still carrying himself like the guy who knows his time is coming, even if the team doesn't want to admit it. And that quiet confidence? It's louder than any hype video. Because here's what everyone in that building knows, whether they want to say it out loud or not. The leash on Dillon Gabriel is getting shorter with every mistake. Every turnover adds weight to the Shedeur question. And once that scale tips, you better believe fans, teammates, and even the media that once ignored him will start turning the spotlight where it should have been all along. Let's be honest, this entire competition has been a branding exercise. The team wanted a clean rollout. The safe, easy-to-market QB option. Gabriel fit that bill. Veteran polish, good interviews, nice highlight reel. Everything you could want. Until the bullets started flying. And when the bullets did fly, he folded. Meanwhile, Shedeur, he stood tall. That's the irony. The guy everyone assumed would need more time is the one who already looks like he's played 3 seasons. And the guy they dubbed NFL ready? He's throwing straight to the other team. You can't script that. But you can ignore it if your ego's big enough. The truth is, teams have a hard time admitting they misread the room, especially when it comes to quarterbacks. There's so much pride on the line. So many hours spent scouting, interviewing, evaluating. And when all that work gets outshined by the kid they weren't planning on, they get defensive. They start doubling down, justifying decisions instead of correcting them. That's where things go sideways. It's not just bad football. It's bad leadership. Because now the message to the locker room isn't best man wins. It's best plan wins. Doesn't matter how you play. What matters is who we plan to win. And don't think the players don't see it. They do. Quarterbacks might get all the headlines, but locker rooms are smart. They watch. They know who's putting in the work, who's consistent, who folds under pressure, and who doesn't. And when those players see Shedeur outperforming the guy above him and still not getting a fair shake, it breeds resentment, doubt, distrust in the process. Because if he can't earn it the right way, who can? That's how team culture starts to rot, not from the outside noise, but from the inside silence. The refusal to confront what's obvious to everyone else. And what's obvious is this: Shedeur Sanders deserves more. He's outplayed the narrative. He's outlasted the bias. He's even outclassed the chaos. And yet here we are, still pretending like this is even. Still treating Gabriel like he's the answer, when the only thing he's answered so far is the question: what happens when you believe the hype instead of the tape? It's a bitter pill, but someone in Cleveland's front office needs to swallow it. Because if they don't, if they keep pretending this isn't happening, they're going to watch one of the most composed young quarterbacks in the preseason slip through their fingers. And when that happens, when Shedeur finally gets the shot he's earned somewhere else, they'll try to rewrite history. They'll say things like, "We always knew he had potential," or "He just needed the right situation." But you'll remember the pick six, the media spin, the buried depth chart, the long silences. You'll remember the calm, cool quarterback they refused to acknowledge, even as he quietly outplayed the favorite. And you'll know the truth. This was never about ability. It was about expectation. And Shedeur Sanders shattered those expectations just by showing up and doing his job better than the guy who was supposed to be the guy. Now it's on the Browns to decide what story they want to tell. Because the one they're selling, no one's buying it anymore. And yet, here they are, still trying to sell it, still trotting out Dillon Gabriel as the guy who just needs a little more time to settle in, while Shedeur Sanders is tucked away like some off-season experiment they'd rather not talk about. Still spinning turnovers as growing pains for one quarterback and turning minor missteps into character flaws for the other. It's exhausting, not just for the fans who can see the difference with their own eyes, but for the idea of competition itself. Because if this quarterback battle was truly fair, if it was about the tape, the tempo, the pocket presence, the results, then this would already be over. Shedeur would have been bumped up the depth chart weeks ago. And yet, the script continues. The team stands behind their plan, and the narrative lurches forward like a zombie, dead on arrival. but still somehow dragging its limbs toward the next press conference. You know what this is? This is what happens when an organization becomes more obsessed with proving itself right than actually being right. When a front office picks a guy, promotes a guy, brands a guy, and then watches the guy toss a pick six in a preseason game that was supposed to cement his dominance, they panic. Quietly, of course. Publicly, they call it a teachable moment. But behind closed doors, they're sweating. Because in that same building is Shedeur Sanders, walking proof that their narrative doesn't match reality. And that's dangerous. To egos, to agendas, to depth charts that were penciled in back in May and never meant to be questioned. But here's the kicker. Players like Shedeur always force the question. You can only ignore competence for so long before it starts getting loud. And right now, it's deafening. Even the fans who weren't paying close attention at first are starting to ask, why is the guy with 2 turnovers still getting all the reps? Why is the steady hand being treated like an afterthought? Why does it feel like the job was already decided before the games were even played? These aren't casual criticisms. These are structural. And they're growing louder because of the optics. The pick six was the turning point, no doubt. It wasn't just a bad play, it was symbolic. The face of the franchise candidate showing cracks at the worst possible time, while the guy with less support quietly holds the offense together in his limited minutes. And you don't have to be a film nerd to see the contrast. Gabriel, even at his best, has been a little frantic, quick to abandon reads. Sometimes too aggressive, sometimes too cautious. There's no rhythm, no feel. You can tell he wants to be the guy, but wanting isn't the same as being. Then there's Shedeur. He doesn't rush. He doesn't panic. He processes. Slides in the pocket like he was born there. Makes smart throws and doesn't force what isn't there. He doesn't just play quarterback. He looks like one. And that right there is what's making this drama explode. Not just because one guy threw a pick six. Not just because the reps are lopsided. But because everyone watching can see what the coaching staff is pretending not to. Shedeur Sanders is ready. Not in a year. Not in some developmental backup capacity. Now. And look, no one's saying Shedeur is going to walk in and win MVP. He's a rookie. There will be bumps. But guess what? Gabriel's already making those same rookie mistakes. Only he's doing it with starter-level reps and media protection. It's not about being perfect. It's about being poised. And if poise counted for half as much as potential, this would be a very different conversation. But it doesn't. Not in a league that still lets politics call plays behind the scenes. So Shedeur waits. Again. And that's the part that really stings, isn't it? The idea that no matter how well you play, how clean you are, how steady you look, if the system already made up his mind, you're fighting ghosts. But the beauty of football, the reason we even have these quarterback controversies, is because the field doesn't lie. The ball doesn't care about narratives. The film doesn't know who was drafted higher. And when the lights come on, there's nowhere to hide. That's why the Gabriel pick six was so seismic. Because for a brief moment, everything the team had been trying to project about their quarterback room collided with what was actually happening on the field. And that's the kind of moment that sticks. It lingers. It infects every rep after, every decision, every throw. It creates a shadow. And that shadow? It belongs to Shedeur Sanders. Because even though they won't say it out loud yet, they're thinking it. Every time Gabriel hesitates. Every time a throw goes wide. Every time a 2-minute drill fizzles out. The name they don't want to say out loud keeps whispering in the back of their minds. Shedeur would have made that throw. And he probably would have. Because he's not chasing validation. He's not clinging to a starter title. He's just ready. It's not flashy. It's not loud. It's not going to break Twitter in a single highlight. It's just consistent, mature, grown man quarterback play. The kind that wins games. The kind that coaches say they want. Until they're faced with the decision to actually choose it over their pride. Because that's the real test. Not who plays better, but who the team is willing to believe in, even when it wasn't part of the plan. So where do we go from here? If history tells us anything, the drama will get worse before it gets better. Gabriel's leash will get shorter. The fans will get louder. The media spin will start to fray at the edges. And somewhere along the way, Shedeur will get a shot. Not a token drive. Not some half-hearted preseason cameo. A real shot. Against real competition. With real pressure. And when that happens, if that happens, don't be surprised if he doesn't just play well. Don't be surprised if he takes the job. Because Shedeur Sanders doesn't want the job handed to him. He wants it earned. And he's already done more than enough to prove he deserves the chance. All that's left is for anyone, in that building to stop pretending and start paying attention. Because this quarterback battle isn't just about football anymore. It's about who's watching the game and who's still clinging to the script. And right now, the script is falling apart.